keep pushing for Dru to take the throne, but he can't be trusted.
He is still your brother.
You always gonna be your mama's boy.
So Kane is in charge now all of a sudden.
All this is now.
One of the moments we're all waiting for is Kane or Monae finding out the truth, figuring out exactly what happened at the end of season 3, and then is it a wrap for Dru and Diana? However, we all know in Power it's never as simple as a secret being revealed, and those deserving consequences being punished. There's always a few twists and turns, a betrayal or two, a lie, or an incident that completely changes the complexion of the chessboard. That's what I think is going to happen when it comes to the storyline and betrayal around the Tejadas. I do think Kane and Monae will eventually find out, but I also think there will be a few factors that do change the game. So in this breakdown, we're going to run through Dru and Diana's betrayal in a bit more detail. We're going to take a look at their mindset, some of the reasons why one is feeling more remorse and guilt, and why the other is full of vengeance and revenge. We're also going to run through how it's all set for Dru versus Kane, two brothers against each other, and why there can only be one survivor in Power Book 2 Ghost Season 4. Now I think throughout the first 3 seasons of Ghost, it was becoming more evident that Dru and Diana wanted to live their own lives. They wanted this independence, control, and live a life which wasn't dictated by Monae. The problem for them was, they were born and raised in a controlled environment, and in a world which you can rarely escape. In fact, in Power, I don't think we've ever seen anybody truly escape, not even Ghost. We also had Kane warning both in season 3. He tried to make them realize they're drug dealers. Before them, they were sick of this control.
Do we make our own decisions? Or are they preordained?
Ma. Oh, hell no. Put that back.
But I like it.
I said what I said. Put that shit back now.
So it was this level of control, lie on top of lie, manipulation, and them realizing Monae was behind their own father's death, which is what led them to making that decision. One which Diana's feeling a lot of remorse for. With Dru, he's the complete opposite, and we are going to get to their mindsets in just a second. But towards the end of 401, after an episode of chasing Tariq, Dru told Kane that Diana got it wrong, it wasn't Tariq. The reason why he changed his tune was because Tariq threatened to expose the truth.
It's bullshit. You know it. Don't worry about it. Let me get to the bottom of it.
Smells like bullshit because it is. Kane knows that something doesn't quite add up, and when he said he's going to get to the bottom of it, you can bet he definitely will. Very similar to the Lorenzo situation. Lorenzo asked Kane to find out who was behind Zeke's death, to kind of keep him occupied and out the way, because he thought there's no way Kane would uncover the truth. He did the same thing with Diana, sending her to Stansfield instead. But what he failed to realize was, this wasn't the same Kane anymore. While he was in prison, he was being mentored by Mecca. He was learning from his mistakes and becoming a lot wiser and more mature. He figured out how Lorenzo was behind the GTG member jumping Dru, how Lorenzo was behind Zeke's death. He did his own investigation and figured out everything for himself, because something told him, deep down, that none of what Lorenzo was saying made any sense, and that's what I expect Kane to do in this particular situation. But not just Kane, also Monae.
Question is, who shot me?
It wasn't me.
That motherfucker's gonna die.
Monae's already asking the question, and the reason why she's gone to Tariq in episode 2 is because he's actually the one that she can trust. He's the only one that hasn't gone behind her back. She also probably knows her kids are talking shit. She's gonna question all of them, and when she does, no doubt she's gonna realize her kids aren't being totally honest. The amount of times Dru and Diana have gone behind Monae's back, you can bet she's gonna think twice. Anything that they say that doesn't add up or paint the picture of the full story, she's gonna question. She's gonna pick holes in their story, and if she is ever onto them, which I fully expect it to be at some point, I don't think she'll reveal what she knows or doesn't know, but rather keep her cards really close to her chest until she fully knows the truth for sure.
Your mother never shows her hand, Kane. You of all people should know that.
So Lorenzo said it best, Monae never reveals her hand. A classic example was when she was given the file by Davis McLean. The file revealed partial prints of Lorenzo Tejada were found at the scene of the crime where Zeke was murdered. Instead of confronting Lorenzo, she did her own investigation and got down to the truth. So I do think Monae will be keeping her cards really close to her chest when she starts to figure out something doesn't quite add up. It may even take this conversation with Tariq in episode 2, where she actually realizes she may have to look closer to home. Now there are also 2 further points I do think are worth a mention, but I don't know whether the writers will necessarily follow through with them. It involves the cameras around the Tejada household, and also the Ring doorbell at Kay Egan's. If I were in Monae's shoes, the first thing I'd do when I get home is look back at the footage. Does anything kind of seem off in and around the time she was shot? Do they recognize anyone, a car, or anything suspicious? The same goes for the ring doorbell at Kate's house. This is something that would definitely blow up Dru and Diana's secret for sure, but whether the writers actually intended for this to be here, we're not too sure. I personally don't think it will come into effect, but those are two further points I did think were worth a mention. Now coming back to episode 401, with Dru and Diana, both of their emotional responses to their involvement in what they did to Monae was very conflicting, and this comes down to their individual experiences and moral compasses. For Dru, I think he still holds a lot of hatred for the way she handled the Gordo and Lorenzo situation. She gave Gordo the false information Lorenzo was responsible for his father Frank's death, knowing that he wanted revenge. Monae then made it look like both Gordo and Kai were in on the kill, which of course Gordo was, but she did it in a way where she was killing two birds with one stone. So in doing so, Dru not only lost Lorenzo, he also lost Gordo, and I do think this has kind of sucked out the last bit of humanity left within Dru. We saw how heartbroken he was, and it's all the pain that he's accumulated over time. So he wants justice, which stems from personal losses. Now on the other hand, Diana feels a lot of guilt and remorse. Despite what they went through in the past, despite all the conflicts that they've had, the disagreements, lies, control, and manipulation, Diana feels a lot of remorse, mainly because Monae put herself on the line to save Diana, just like Lorenzo once did with Kane. After Lorenzo put his body on the line, we also had that kind of change Kane's perception, and I do think the same is happening here. Monae's decision making and some of the things she's done are definitely unforgivable, but her opening up to Diana, finally explaining why she's made some of the decisions she has made, along with apologizing for the way she treated her in the past, putting her body on the line, in a way, it's created an internal conflict, which in turn leads her to feeling this guilt. So despite Monae's flaws, despite what they've been through in the past, Diana sees the situation beyond Monae's mistakes. Dru's driven by revenge, whereas Diana's clouded with this moral conflict. Now going forward, it is going to be interesting to see how they both deal with this whole situation. With Diana, I think if the pregnancy storyline is true, because it hasn't been confirmed, and because of her feeling a lot of remorse about what they've done, I think that will just save Diana, just. I also think someone who will have a huge influence on Diana is Jeanette Stewart, but will Diana's prayers be answered? Will Monae forgive her role in what happened at the end of season 3, or is she doomed? Is her fate sealed? Now with Dru, they've already set the stage for the path that he's chosen. The fact that he's still driven by vengeance and revenge, and some of the decisions he made in 401, you can see him spiraling out of control. And when someone's sloppy and reckless, they're not just a danger to themselves, they're also a danger to everybody around them. He's going to put everybody at risk because of his actions. He's also going to go against Monae, Kane, and maybe even Diana for obvious reasons. And eventually, we are going to see a scenario where we see Kane versus Dru. So this is where it gets really interesting, because they've dubbed this as the final showdown, two brothers against each other. They've already teased it in the past when Lorenzo was released, and also after his death. There was this whole power struggle within the Tejadas, where Monae sided with Dru, which will definitely be different in season 4.
You might be rocking Poppy's piece, but I'm stepping up to number 1. Just hit me, bitch!
Dru, fall back! Stand down, Cane.
So they've been teasing Kane versus Dru for a while, but what's kicked things off between them in season 4? You can imagine Kane's probably found out about his betrayal, because you can be damn sure he is going to do his own investigation. Throw in the fact that Dru's still full of bitterness and anger, he'll probably be saying and doing a lot of shit against Monae by making decisions for himself and for the Tejadas, like he did with the move against the Russians. So Dru will want to kind of do this, but Kane will want to do that. The classic brotherly clash we're so accustomed to seeing in power. Let's not forget, there has been a power struggle within the family that started way back in season 1, when Lorenzo wanted Dru to be the natural successor. There was always an ill feeling in the air between them, the way Lorenzo was kind of treating Dru, the way Kane went about business when he got involved with Mecca, or when he managed to get control over Lorenzo. There was always an ill feeling, and this was just a build-up of all the anger, betrayals, lies, and waiting to be the leader of the Tejada organization, the head of the family. That's what it comes down to. It's a battle for the throne. Now we've also got Monae saying he's still your brother, which probably means she doesn't like seeing them at odds, but it's way too late. With it being dubbed the final showdown, there can only be one winner, which in my opinion is Cane Tejada. We know Dru can fight, we've seen him turn it on before, and we know he isn't scared to stand up to Kane either, not like Tariq was running in 401. We even saw him making a move, turning the tables on Kane when he had his gun pointed towards him in this particular scene, but Kane is just Kane. He's the Tejada muscle for a reason, and in my opinion, this will end with Kane killing Dru, him poking Kane and telling him he's always going to be Mama's boy, which I'm sure isn't the only words that will be spoken in this scene. There's definitely going to be a lot more of NBA housewife and Kane delivering some home truths. Although Dru also isn't wrong, Kane is a mama's boy, and that's why he's probably so pissed off and going at Dru in the way he is, because he tried to have Monae killed. But it is going to lead to a huge fist fight, with Kane then pointing a gun towards him, which may or may not be the moment where he pulls the trigger, but I think they're definitely going to build up to it happening later on in the season. I think there's going to be a cat and mouse game between Kane and Dru, with both of them working against each other, and then finally having this final showdown, which can only end in one way, the death of Dru, which also might be why Monae lets off this big scream. It could be the moment where she finds out she's lost yet another son. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I do think this teaser is an exciting one, and it just adds more fuel to the fire when it comes to the Tejadas. Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.